Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 881, World Cup Semifinal Preview. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie. Eddie, how's it going?
Yeah, things are going pretty well. We're back to massive heat waves, so I'm just in a sweat box at this point in this office because I can't really open the window because of noise. I can't have like a fan or anything on in here, so it's not so bad when you're in it. But as soon as I walked out to get some more water and then walked back in, it is as if I had stepped into just a jungle in terms of just floating sweat in the air. So that's a nice visual for the listeners. But how are you doing?
I am actually freezing in my basement right now, so
I would swap places with you very, very happily.
Yeah, it's going. We're also in a heat wave.
Wow, you just got back though from your big hockey tournament.
I did.
One or two listeners also following you on social media were able to see live updates. I've got a bone to pick with you and Save the Boobies.
Oh boy.
Great updates. Felt like I was there. I got instant score updates, some videos, but do you know when the updates stopped?
As soon as when we lost in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's partially on me. I'm the social media updater, and I got injured in the last game. So the last thing on my mind was during an injury trying to put up a loss on the social media. We had made it pretty quickly, and then I had just forgotten to put it up, and then we didn't put it up till we drove back the next day. Unfortunately, yeah. So hey, you could have went on the Narch website. You could have easily seen that we lost.
I'm not going to go to those lengths. It was a bit like, we discuss like the flash score updates or something, or Crick Info when there's a big pause, something happened. And when I knew the game had definitely been completed, but no update was forthcoming, I knew you had lost.
Yeah, tough loss. We were up 1-0, and then unfortunately had like 3 penalties in a row, and then they scored on 2 of the penalties and went up 2-1, and then we're done. Then I think they might have scored an empty net for the third goal, but yeah, a little unfortunate. I actually didn't end up playing most of the second period. Because I was hurt and kind of had to sit on the bench screaming in pain as I was trying to watch at the same time, which is not a great feeling. But yeah, we played pretty well. Just got unlucky. Like the penalties kind of always kill us every tournament. So if we could just clean up penalties, we'd be a much better team.
Are you the Jordan Henderson of Save the Boobies? Is that
no, because my injury happened on the rink while I was playing, not celebrating. But I did turn into a little bit of a Jordan Henderson. Yeah, I guess.
So on that note,
pretty fun tournament. We actually had a lot of fan support. I don't know if you saw, but there was like so we have some merchandise, but we don't actually make enough to sell. We just make it so we could wear it. But everyone was trying to buy T-shirts and hats literally off of us. So next tournament, we're actually going to come prepared with like a bunch of stuff to sell. But there was like a 7-year-old kid who came up to one of the players and said he absolutely loves boobies and he would like the hat. So the kid, he's from the UK. He actually ended up going back to England with a Save the Boobies hat. So hopefully he's spreading the team worldwide in his first grade class.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have discussed this. It's quite a juvenile name, even if it's aimed at a good cause. So it doesn't surprise me that some of your fans might just like boobies and want merch as a result rather than a deep passion for ice hockey or breast cancer awareness.
If it gets donations to Breast Cancer Foundation, we're good with it.
And so a percentage of your merch revenue
once we start selling, that one we just gave for free.
So nothing.
No, I mean,
so that kid's just loves boobies.
We're down money on that one.
Even
better.
But
we actually did like more than that. Like 3 or 4 people actually just gave us straight donations that we have a charity set up for. So we started putting into the charity this tournament that we set up purposely for this tournament. But 2 of the refs gave us donations, and some other fans gave us donations as well to kind of put into the charity. And then next year we'll set it up so it's a lot better. But yeah, it was fun. A lot of people
And
like it.
what
And of course,
percentage of donations goes towards breast cancer research?
all of it for the donations, all
Okay.
of it.
All right,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
making
But
sure people feel.
yeah, and when we sell the merch, it'll basically be like cover the costs of the merch and then put the rest through donations. Yeah. So, but yeah, unfortunate tournament. We had to win the last game at night to make it to the playoffs, and that was fun. Like always having that like must win game and coming through and kind of blowing the team out was pretty fun. I think we beat them like 5-2, 5-3. So that was good. But yeah, pretty injured now, so it's going to be I feel like a long recovery until I'm playing hockey again. Could be a few months.
Yeah, we have a mutual friend who struggled with a hernia for quite a long time. Hopefully if you do end up having an operation, hopefully it's more successful than the one that he had.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Right now, I'm not very hopeful. Feels like someone's stabbing me in the stomach right now.
Oh,
Great
well,
feeling.
but yeah, obviously while you were there, you also managed to watch some of the World Cup games. I saw you were lucky that it appears that your schedule did not conflict with the
With the
England
England match. No,
quarterfinal.
so, we had the perfect timing of our playoff game was at 4 p.m. and the England match was at noon. So the entire team, minus one player, all went to the bar for lunch, and we all stayed and watched the England match. And obviously, our goalie, who is English, was very happy that we stayed. It started to push a little close to like, we got to get going here. And then, of course, it went to extra time, and it was like, we've really got to get going here. Like, what's going on? But we did make it, no problem. And then we ended up losing anyway. So who gives a fuck?
That's
I
one
was
way to.
really pissed too. Like it was really shitty that I was so injured because in the beginning of the tournament I was actually playing pretty well, and then I just kept getting more and more injured every game, and it was like getting down to like 50-60% of what I could actually do. And I really, really, really wanted to score after and drop the Jude Bellingham celebration. I was like, in my head, I was like, I've got to score just so I can do the Jude. I got to do it. And I think our goalie would have absolutely like loved it if I could have done it. But
Well,
unfortunately,
you
I don't think
could,
I even had a shot that game.
but also you can't pull that celebration when you're losing.
No, but like we were up 1-0 for most of the game. So at like I by the time I got hurt, it was 1-1. So like when I was out there, had I scored, I would have been able to pull it, I think. But yeah, unfortunately, I maybe had a shot, but wasn't a good game.
Oh well,
Would have been
next
so
year.
good to pull off next year. Well, won't be the same next year. Won't be 2 hours after he scored both goals.
Maybe it, maybe it will be a
2 years,
random
Euros,
random international friendly, and he'll have a great game.
Nations League.
Could be Nations League. It could be a really unimportant Nations League game.
Yeah, so do you want to start with that match? I mean, I was able to watch it really nicely. My bar had, I don't know, there was probably like 70 people in there, not even, maybe 60. We took up like 25 of them between, family, friends, wives, and all that. There was 19 televisions surrounding us. Anywhere you want to look, there was a 50, 60-inch television. At points, I didn't know what TV was good enough to look at as I sat nicely in my
All
chair
right.
to
All
watch the
right.
match. How
Yeah,
was
I
your
went
experience?
not so great. I went with former co-host Sam to an open like a market that was sort of open air market that was showing it. Like cool venue in terms of if you were there on a normal basis, really nice. There's different uh different types of food available and drinks and stuff, but it was too busy, and fortunately we were able to get some seats. I did not have a good view because people stood directly in front of me and then didn't care at all that they were standing directly in front of people. And I won't go into too much detail on that. However, I'll say two takeaways from this. One is, and these are both, I know I occasionally get accused of being anti-American. I will throw some shade at my own people now. And some of what football culture in the UK has evolved into. 3 elements. One, when England equalized, you did get some of the beer throwing, and
Only some?
pretty
That's
limited.
genuinely surprising.
I think this is the type of place that if you really did it, you get kicked out because it is a sort
Oh.
of, it's not in a box park. It's a little bit nicer. And so I do think if you'd gone really overboard with the beer throwing, I think you probably would have got complaints from people. But there was some of it. And it's just a little, it's also because I kind of got to see it happen because it was the people sort of in front of the screen for me who really went for it. It was the beer throwing where they definitely were not throwing it on themselves. And that bit is that's the bit I judge. It's one thing if you're just going to really go for it and it's just going everywhere. But if you're just like, oh, let me just splash the people behind me, like an
Yeah,
excuse to be an asshole, basically. That bit I'm not a fan of. And I think I never liked the beer throwing. Maybe it had its time and its place in 2018 when it was just sort of took the nation by storm. But at this point, I think we can leave it behind us. It's not that much fun, and it can be left. The other part of it, so there was a moment when, before the match was really kicking off, where I was there's a first group of people who stood in front of me, and they had ample space to actually just move a bit to their side, which I was just saying to them. I was like, hey guys, you can just stand 1 foot over and I can see perfectly and you can see perfectly. It's not changing your experience, but it's radically changing mine. And one of them was a little bit aggressive with the response of like, this is my spot, I'm going to stand here, and then pulled 2 things, neither of which I really enjoy. One of which he then tried to tell me, like, look, it means a lot to me, which I said, yeah, you and 20 million other people. So let's cool down.
What does that got to do with like standing 1 foot to the left or the right?
I don't know. And then the second thing, and I think this is become a bit more part of like British football culture. And we have one mutual friend, Ernest, who likes to pull this a bit. I think it's a big part of like London football culture in particular. But part of it was him. He was like, look, I'm a baller. Exact words came out of his mouth. So he was like, I need to really be able to see this, which I kind of let slide, but part of me wanted to say, look, you're like 24 years old. If you were that much of a baller, you're not stood next to me watching this. Because even if you were pretty good, you're off in preseason training for a League Two club right now. You're not here. So we can already gauge.
I'm a baller.
But there is a little bit an element of this that I think has started to permeate some parts of British football culture. Well, I think specifically London football culture, which is no, like I'm quite good. So therefore it's more important that I see this than you.
Yeah.
Which I've never quite get. A, you don't know how good of a footballer I am. So there's this starter. But B, even if you are a much, much better footballer than me, doesn't mean you have more right to see this than I do. So that was the second part of it that really bothered me. And then third, just in general, like how accommodating people were, or in this case, were not to, I don't have to inconvenience myself much. Like I have decided to watch this in a group, and part of my group commitment here is that I can really easily make sure that as many people, like at a certain moment in time, I get it. If you're just standing and the person behind you is like, I can't see properly, but that's the only place you can stand and you were there first, there's not a lot much that you can do. But if you're turning up to a place and someone else has been there for hours more than you and has a seat as a result, you can't just be like, well, this is the only place I can stand to see it. That ain't my problem. Like that isn't, and it wasn't the friendliest of atmospheres. And so I decided to leave at halftime, and I went back and sat and watched it in my hotel room by myself for the second half and extra time. Which
no
also
hotel bar, or is it same hotel as normal?
There was a hotel bar, but it was pretty full. In part, I kind of regretted that I just didn't go to the hotel bar to begin with because it was nice. There were seats everywhere, but I was alone. And I didn't want to sort of second half be doing like, oh, is that seat free? Is that seat free? So I just went back to my room and dealt with it like that.
By yourself?
By myself.
What a move.
Watched the entire second half in extra time
what
alone.
A move.
But do you know, it also kind of convinced me that ultimately I really like being able to properly see and appreciate the match. And that actually I preferred that environment. And this isn't me being old and not wanting to be in crowds, but for a match that I really want to be able to see, I much prefer than just being alone or with 2 or 3 people versus crammed into a venue. Because at this point, kind of watching it in the situation I was watching it, it was like being at a stadium, but without the benefit of, like, I was actually there, and I don't
Yeah, yeah.
really understand what the attraction of that is.
Yeah, if if you were to tell me I have a good view with a bunch of people, that's great. If you were to tell me I have little to no view with a bunch of people, I would actually take the view with no people. Because at the end of the day, I really want to be able to watch the match and like see what happens. Like the excitement is fun, but if you don't know what you're getting excited for really, or like you can't get a feel for the match and like see what's happening and like understand it in any level, then it's really not that fun for me. Like and I
Yeah.
think that's the same for all sports. Like, I mean, football is always the same way with that too. Like when you're watching the NFL, like it is fun to watch it with a group of people, but like if you can't really see what's going on, and even a lot of times with the NFL, it's a little trickier too because you almost want to hear what's happening sometimes because like players will suddenly disappear and you don't know why, and it's like, oh, is this guy hurt? Like what happened? So sometimes it's always nicer to kind of watch it in a spot where you can like see properly, hear what's going on, like get a good view. Yeah, I,
And I
I
say this
understand that.
as a particularly big baller. I
Yeah.
wanna be able to properly appreciate and analyze the match, which I can't do in that environment. But, for example, to explain to you how limited my viewing ability was in that first half, I basically couldn't see the left hand of the screen at any point. So, when Norway scored, I saw it go in, but I didn't see where the ball came from. So I didn't know exactly what had happened. I could figure out, like, that must have been a cross that sort of snuck in, but I couldn't really tell what had happened. If you could have told me he'd cut back in on his other foot and sort of bent it into the corner, I couldn't really tell. Same then when they had the really good chance to go 2-0 up, when they didn't square the ball to Holland on the 2v1, I couldn't see Holland. So
Yeah.
I was basically watching a 1v1, and then it was only actually at halftime when I saw the highlights back where I realized just how good of a chance that was to go 2-0 up. Fortunately, Jude Bellingham scored sort of on the right side of the screen, so at that moment in time, I could see that pretty well, so that was quite lucky. But second half
Wow.
and extra time in the hotel room, air conditioning on full blast, it was a much better
By
experience.
yourself.
All alone,
Did
just
you
with my
did you order room service?
after the game, not during it.
Oh, that would have been great.
I did get to have some stuff in the mini bar, though.
Nice. And then did you go back out after or did you just stay in the hotel?
Stayed in the hotel. To be honest with you, there were 2 things. One, I'd already seen at halftime, like, what a mess it was on the streets sort of surrounding where I was, and I kinda going back into that environment. Sort of when you're out and staying within it is okay, but sort of walking back into it didn't seem too tempting to me. And then I was a little bit annoyed with some of the people who I had gone to watch with, so I wasn't that keen to, none of whom reached out to me to do the, like, "We're now going here if you wanna meet us now." Didn't get any of those either. So they didn't redeem themselves in the post-match environment either. So,
Oh,
yeah, I was quite
amazing.
happy at that stage. And plus it was late at that moment in time anyway. And
Sure, yeah.
I'd been out late the night before. I'd been out until 3 AM the previous night. So I was happy
Yeah.
to get a reasonable amount of rest.
Yeah, see, I don't think I like that atmosphere really though at all, like the open I don't know if open air isn't the right term, but like that, like just like big open festival like environment for watching. So like the bar here that has been the go-to World Cup bar has a really nice inside bar that's like a British pub style bar. But then outdoor they have normally lawn for like lawn bowling, but they've now converted it into like a watch party. So they have a massive projector screen, like enormous, and then people can sit. It's like the size of I don't know, half a football field, and it's just like hundreds of people sitting down watching it. That seems terrible to me. Like you're watching it on a projector outside, like so you're not gonna be able to see it very well. The inside part, at least there's nice TVs. You're in like a closed environment, like you have a seat. That's a lot better. But I'm not a big like festival style watching viewing party person. Just too many people.
Yeah, I just don't the atmosphere. Like, a nicely filled pub to me is perfect.
Yeah.
I don't really wanna be shoulder to shoulder, which I know, look, when it gets to a World Cup semifinal or World Cup final, then yeah, the advice to someone like me is stay at home, have people over. Like, that is something I will enjoy more, and to on Wednesday for the semifinal, for example, I am staying at home and I'm asking people over. It does kind of make me feel that I'm very grateful at times to be, like, an expat, because oftentimes I get to go and watch England play in sports where it's nicely filled, but it isn't overcrowded. Like, I would probably, I'm not, for example, going out tomorrow to watch France against Spain somewhere in Paris. It will be just as awful. I don't want to experience it. I want to watch the game properly. But I probably could, on the semifinal, find a place where I could watch England against Argentina, and it would be like a nice balance of there's other people here, there's an atmosphere that you can enjoy, but at the same time, I get to properly see the game and hopefully sit down. If I have to stand, not the end of the world. But, those things. But yeah, it wasn't that much fun. It did kind of, I will say, it did take a little bit of the shine off of England weren't playing particularly well, so it wasn't that enjoyable to begin with. And then on top of it too, all of that, I won't say I wanted them to go out at that moment in time, but I wasn't too fussed if they'd lost in extra time. Like, if Norway had snuck in a late winner in the 93rd minute, I don't think it would have hit me quite as badly as it probably will be if the same thing happens on Wednesday.
So shall we get to the matches?
Yeah. Which order? Should we go in chronological order again to sort of try
That's what you
and
like.
it just means we don't forget one, which we otherwise might. So France, kick things off with France, Morocco. Not the greatest of games.
Pretty
Uh,
lopsided turned out.
yeah, probably one match too many for Morocco in the end. They've had quite intense knockout stage sort of matchups up until then, and this was probably the time when it felt like maybe the legs weren't quite there and they were just completely outclassed by France. Lucky that, Mbappe missed the first half penalty and that allowed them to sort of stay in the match for longer than they otherwise would have been. Turkish goalkeeper kind of let himself down a little bit on the second goal, on the Dembele goal.
Yeah.
Not the greatest attempt to save, but 2-0 probably the kind of fair score line in a match where Morocco basically failed to land a blow.
Yeah, I mean, Morocco did almost nothing the entire match. I think the first half, their XG was like 0.
Yeah.
Like it was not good. Like they were barely even crossing over. It was rough. Yeah, I think France is just really good. I think there's no getting around it now. I think they are a very, very good team, and they are going to be tough to beat, I think, moving forward. And they looked good against Morocco. I mean, and at times Morocco this tournament had looked pretty good offensively, like, able to push the ball, get some goals, get some chances, and I mean, just completely shut down.
Yeah, it's tough because, I mean, France are deserving favorites at this stage. They've looked by far the best team from start to finish within this tournament. I do think you can make a little bit of an argument that they don't look quite as good at this stage as they maybe did initially. And whereas maybe in the case you could sort of make the argument that Spain are gradually finding their feet as the tournament goes on, I think France maybe peaked. If they lose, the post-tournament analysis will be that they peaked a bit too soon, and then this expanded tournament may have almost hurt them. But at the same time, their weakness is undoubtedly midfield and defensively. That's where, the front four are as good, if not better, than anything else anyone else has to offer. And yet they haven't conceded a goal in the knockout stages so far. So it's sort of you can
Yeah.
pick now, and then the response to that is they haven't really played a good team. But then, Argentina haven't played a good team in the knockout stages either, and they've conceded in every round. England haven't played anyone fantastic. They've definitely faced Turner tests, I think, in Mexico and Mexico City and Norway than France have in the knockout stages. But, they have still conceded in every match. So, like, France do look the most complete, but I still don't think they're going to win it. I'm back to thinking they're not going to. I'm back
Back
to
to Spain.
we've made some mistakes in our predictions in this tournament, but we have ended up with the four we thought would make it to the
Yes.
semifinals, which, okay, they are the four highest
Boom.
ranked teams in the world. We went chalk to get to the semifinals, and it worked. And it's the
Got
first
it.
time in it's the first time in history that the top four ranked teams in the world have made it to the semifinals. Admittedly, it's the first time ever that that's been possible because FIFA set it up to guarantee that this was conceivably possible if they all just won their groups and then won from that moment on.
Yeah.
I'm back to thinking Spain might beat them in the semifinal.
Okay. You saw enough from Spain in the Belgium match to switch you.
I don't think Spain were amazing in the Belgium match. However, I think I just think the way Spain can control possession and control a game for an extended period of time, and I worry about France defensively and in midfield, that their front four might just get a little bit isolated. And the criticism, like Mbappe, when everything's firing, right, he looks amazing. And we know this and have known this now for a decade, that he is one of the most terrifying attacking players when in full flow. And the combination of pace and skill makes him sort of a unique threat for most teams. But what we also know is that he is very lazy. Like, he doesn't do any closing down, pressing, defensive work. That's why ultimately PSG decided that they could move on from him in a sense. I mean, I know he decided that, but it was why PSG have done better with post Mbappe than they did pre Mbappe. And it's why at Real Madrid, they sometimes have struggled in the Mbappe era, particularly when they then play Mbappe and Vinicius Jr., because then you're carrying two lazy players, and that's really hard to do. It worries me a little bit for France against Spain. If Spain do hit a rhythm and have extended periods of time of possession, that you'll get lazy Mbappe coming out. He won't be pressing, and that they will struggle to kind of regain a foothold for long periods of the match. That's my concern. They might prove me completely wrong by just being too fast and strong and quick and just too threatening on the break and when they attack against Spain. But that's the reason why I think Spain is a tricky matchup for them, is just how they might be able to frustrate France in a way that other teams haven't been able to so far.
Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to. We'll see soon enough, I guess.
We'll see tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Belgium against Spain, I didn't see the first half, I will say. I missed that. But second half, Spain looked comfortable. Again, for Belgium, it's sort of just that felt like Belgium's level. Like, I think we had to almost throw out in analyzing how Spain played against Belgium, we had to throw out everything we saw from Belgium in the group stages, because ultimately Belgium from the final 10 matches of the Senegal match onwards look a completely different team to the one that struggled, that should have been knocked out by Senegal and also struggled in the group stages. So, I think that was a pretty good performance from Spain. Yes, they scored a late winner. The match
Yeah.
should have gone to extra time. It's really heartbreaking for Belgium that Courtois went off injured, and for him to be sitting on the bench
Sucks.
as the player who replaced him, making a pretty bad mistake to hand Spain the game. Like, that's really unfortunate for Belgium and for Courtois in particular, and for Lemons, who came in for Courtois. I mean, it's, I guess, worse for him. But yeah, I still think Spain, they're doing just enough, and I'm seeing positives there within the side.
Yeah, I think Spain looked in control for most of that match. Belgium had a few chances and they capitalized on that early chance in the first half, and then had a few in the second half. But overall, I think Spain just keep possession for so long, and they just kind of bide their time and kind of wait until they want to kind of take that final blow and get you. And worked out pretty well in this match.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing maybe we have to accept with this Spanish side. I mean, they haven't taken their chances. That's the thing is, and like throughout the knockout stages, they've had plenty of opportunities to stretch leads against teams and haven't done so. Now, the concern heading into then against France is they need to be more clinical, because they can't afford to have it be like 35 minutes of Spain being really good and they had one or two chances to score, because it will be the 40th minute and France will suddenly be 1-0 up, and that will be big problems for Spain. But you can just I choose to look at the positives, and I think for all of the teams involved, France aside, because we're just going to put them at the top, so I have to be more critical of France because they are the sort of presumptive champions almost at this stage. For the other three teams, there's lots of negatives, and I'm going to, for each one of them, because they've made it this far, I'm going to look more on the positives.
Okay. Very unlike you.
Well, in the latter stages of I think there's been so much pushback within the media. Like I've been sent articles by friends, some of whom do or don't watch that much football, and from sources that do or don't normally cover football, about, let's say we're just focusing on England, how mediocre England have been,
Yeah.
and how do they deserve to have made it this far, and why they have no chance of winning. And we basically had this every round. Mexico heard it.
Yeah.
Norway heard it, hearing it going in against Argentina. And I just find it really dull that in knockout tournaments, the most important thing is winning. And it
Exactly.
doesn't matter. We've spoken about it there's no points for style. It doesn't matter. And 20 years from now, no one will remember whether or not in the quarterfinals you were a little bit lucky because of this break or that break. And so, because the only people who remember those things in the future are the losers.
The losers. Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm not going to say the Sean Connery quote from The Rock, but it's sort of reminiscent of that. But it's I just think with all of these teams, you can find, as France aside, you can find some major issues, but they've all
Yeah.
kept winning and they've all come through in big moments.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talk about the like negativity towards England. And I feel like that's way more than the other teams that are still left. And I don't like don't fully understand. Like I don't know who watches Argentina now match after match and thinks, "Oh yeah, they look great." I mean, they continue to get lucky, squeak by, like pull rabbits out of hats to win these matches that you watch them for long periods and it's like they're going to lose again. But you know what they do? They win. They keep winning. And at the end of the day, that's all you really need to do in a long knockout stage tournament is just keep advancing, keep moving on. Like not every match is going to be the best match ever, but if you win, then it was a perfect match because you moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and France are the only exception to that because they have not been
Yeah.
pushed close and have won every match and look in complete control from sort of halftime onwards in most of the matches that they've played. So they are the exception. But yeah, everyone else, Spain have relied on, consecutive rounds, two late winners to go through. England clung on for dear life, found a late winner against DRC, clung on for dear life against Mexico City, then were pushed to extra time against Norway. I mean, I think you could argue with England that, like, oh, I guess this could be the transition onto the England discussion. Once they scored in extra time, that game was over. Like, Norway had thrown everything at it. Holland had gone off. In a sense, this was almost the reverse to some extent. I spoke about in the England-Mexico game that England had to win in 90 minutes because there was no chance, given the situation, that they were going to win in extra time or penalties. And whilst the dynamics were very different in this match, Norway had to beat England in 90 minutes because the strength and depth of the squads in what were also, like, I think in the end, the conditions had had a bigger part to play in that match in Miami than they did in Mexico City in
It
terms
looked
of
brutal.
how players were struggling with the heat and the humidity there.
Yeah.
Turns out maybe heat and humidity is worse than altitude. Like
Yeah. It looked
maybe that.
brutal.
So like, I think, for England, once I wasn't confident in stages in the second half where it looked like Norway knew almost. Norway were going for it a lot more than England were. And I think they knew that they were not going to survive an additional 30 minutes. But certainly once Jude Bellingham put England 2-1 up early on in extra time, I felt like that was a done deal. I wasn't that nervous for the remainder of extra time, for example.
And then once Dan Burn got on, game over. Seal it.
Just stepping over floored Norwegians.
Twice.
Yes.
The double step over. Classic.
Yeah. And obviously some controversy in that match. I mean, we could start with a couple of the big issues. So the first is the England equalizer. Well, the first, I suppose, is the Norwegian first goal, or only goal, in which it looks like Kane is fouled in the buildup. Now, it's hard to find a lot of replays of this foul, which
Yeah.
is kind of telling to me. Like,
I saw one, like, live when they showed it. They, like, replayed it pretty quickly. It's close. If they had called it a foul, uh, I think everyone's fine with it, like, on the pitch. I think to go back and overturn it rightfully shouldn't have happened, but I don't know if it's any worse than the one that was called back because of a foul in the buildup in the Argentina match.
yeah, I mean, I lean here towards the fact that, and this isn't my England rose tinted glasses on. Like, Harry Kane is not someone who just goes down easily. For him to do that, especially in that situation, I think you have to assume there was a degree of contact. Now, those are dangerous assumptions to make. I do agree with you once. Now, again, we haven't seen that many replays. I think I've seen 2 angles of it, and it's very hard to tell exactly what happened. So I'm fine on that basis that VAR shouldn't intervene. In the moment, it just looked to me like a foul that was going to be called. All I'll say this is, like, some of the post-match analysis has spoken about how lucky England are or were with some of the officiating. I don't think you could just breeze over the fact that 9 times out of 10, that's probably a foul,
Yeah.
or given as a foul. And so whilst I'm fine with that not being but it's the theme that you and I have discussed, the
Lack of
different ways in
consistency.
which VAR has interfered and intervened in different games feels radically different.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll say this, I don't think that is something you should overturn through VAR as, like, a foul in the buildup. And I think and this is, I think, getting to, like, when US fans were super critical about the Balogun red. Just because you've messed up a call before in, like, another match doesn't mean you then, like, equalize another shitty call to, like, be on the same level. Like, no, I think that Argentina call, I think that was a little soft for VAR to go back and overturn. And I think this was the right move, where if it was called on the pitch, then it's a foul. He doesn't score, but you don't look and go back and say, like, no, we've got to overturn this. So it was a 50-50 call, and I think it went Norway's way there.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel sort of the same way then moving on to England's equalizer, which in the moment, I don't know. I mean, no one really knew what the eventual complaints are, which is that the goal kick hit the
Allegedly.
hit the wire that's used for the spider cam. I've yet to see conclusive evidence to show that it did. Yeah,
Yeah, same.
the ball does seem to drop more dramatically than it, but not so dramatically. And
No.
people are arguing that, like, Gordon was backpedaling, but then he moves forward. I actually think all of the players immediately under the ball, none of them react as if it's hit anything. None of
Yeah.
them sort of point up to anything. At the same time, too, I mean, Gordon collects the ball sort of
Anderson.
5 to 10 yards into the England half. I mean, how far can the Norwegian keeper kick it? Like, that
Yeah.
also becomes a slight question. Was he booming it 15 yards into the stands? But maybe it hit. I don't see conclusive evidence to show that it did.
Technology says no.
Technology, and there's
The
lots of
sensors in
issues.
the ball.
There's lots of issues with the sensors, and I get it. People say, like, oh, when you watch the Croatian one, it's like a flat line and then a spike, whereas when you watch the England game, it's like constantly sort of moving, which is what you would expect from a ball in motion. So there's lots of reasons to be skeptical about how this technology is being displayed to us. But I don't see conclusive evidence. I don't think you see players on the pitch. The goalkeeper afterwards kind of points to it once the goal has been scored, but no one immediately reacts as if the ball's hit something.
No.
And ultimately, too, it's not as if the ball hit something and then Harry Kane was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. The ball's probably or possibly hit something, and then England are collecting the ball 5 yards into their own half, and there is half the Norwegian team between them and the goal, and Norway just doesn't manage to defend particularly well from that moment on. So it isn't as if England scored because it hit that. And I also probably feel differently about, how annoyed I think the Norwegians should be about that as a result of. Like, if that were England, I would be like, we should still have defended from that position.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the Norwegian manager, I think, has been overblowing this and exaggerating it. The great view was in his post game. He was like, "Oh my god, it clearly hit. You can see it hits and then drops straight down, blah, blah, blah." The side view, it does not drop straight down. It has the rainbow arc, like, it
Yeah.
has the arch to it. It does not drop straight down. The best part about that view is then you see the Norwegian manager on the side, he doesn't fucking say
But
anything.
he admits this because then he was asked, "Did you see it in real time?" He said, "I didn't see it, but other players on the bench and other coaching staff members did." And so this is also where I get a little bit critical of what how we're then analyzing officiating decisions of, well,
Yeah,
if you weren't playing, if you're just on the sidelines watching this happen and you didn't notice it and it was right in front of you,
right in front of him.
then why is this such a big issue? And I judge it more from the fact that none of the players immediately under it kind of reacted as if anything insane had happened. But as I
No,
said,
that's a big thing to me too. Like, if a ball's going and then all of a sudden it hits something and quote to like what they're saying, like drops right down, like every player is gonna like react to a ball like
yeah,
dropping however many yards in front of where they predicted it. And none of them did. No one on the pitch did.
yeah, no, it's and look, maybe it hit. And yes, if it hit, the goal kick should have been retaken. England don't score. Do I think that guarantees that Norway definitely go through? I think if I were Norwegian, I'm way more upset about Sorloth not squaring the ball to Holland on a
Yeah.
2v1 than I am about whether or not the ball hit. That to me is clear. Then you obviously Norway look to have retaken the lead from a corner when Holland pushed Anderson. That might be what you're the I mean, he clearly pushes him. It's pretty
Clearly.
aggressive. Could Anderson have fought to stay on his feet a little bit more? Sure. Does he go to ground slightly easily? Perhaps. But it's a two-handed push from a player who's much, much bigger than you. I'm not going to say that he did the wrong thing. It's interesting that the way the laws are applied in this tournament, that the corner gets retaken, versus a foul being awarded in England having a free kick. That's a difference. That's a unique element now. But I don't think as a Norwegian, I don't think you can have too many complaints about the fact that the goal was disallowed.
He pushed him. He threw and is there a slight exaggeration? Yeah, okay, there's a little bit of him throwing his hands up as he's falling down, but he clearly pushed him and that's a foul.
And to me, this ultimately gets back to, yes, I want to see corners officiated differently. And so I think you can always feel a little bit hard done by at the moment when your team is on the wrong end of suddenly a free kick being enforced in a corner or free kick situation, because it does feel like you could pick out any corner and a player gets pushed over or a player gets grabbed, a player gets held. And that's right. So if that's your gripe as a Norwegian supporter or a non-England supporter, I can completely understand it. It's true. I'm sure we could pull up footage from a lot of corners this tournament and find very similar incidents where nothing happens. Probably some of them committed by England players. I'm not saying otherwise. But however, when you're Erling Holland and you do it, you're probably going to it's going to be noticed a little bit more than if it's random player who's less of a threat from that same sort of situation. And, hopefully that's a step towards corners being more tightly officiated for the rest of the tournament and moving forward in football in general. It won't be. I know. And I'm very aware of the fact that I'll watch inconsistent application of that same rule over the remaining 4 matches. It will happen, but it is what it is.
I mean, but then you also have the Spence VAR overturn penalty,
This is the one I have the greatest issue with.
which I think if you're a Norwegian fan, I think they complain that England got all the calls, but you kinda got this one, like
Yeah. And here's the thing is, yes, you can kind of complain about it less because in the end it didn't matter. Like it would have. We're going to assume that Harry Kane scores. Kind of matters to him in the Golden Boot race, but other than that, it would have been England killing the game in extra time, and in the end they won 2-1. So it's a sort of non-decision, non-factor. I understand that Spence initiates that contact, as in he is moving his leg in front of the defender. But like he's in possession of the ball and he has the right to protect the ball. And he isn't doing it just in order to be fouled. He's doing it in order to maintain possession. And this is we're going to get into really a gray area on how we interpret fouls if we start to kind of think about the attacker initiating the contact. Because my understanding has sort of always been if you're in possession of the ball, that makes your sort of first right to move, basically. And the defender then has to work around the decisions that you take, not vice versa of I need to be aware of the defender coming to my right, and it would be unfair of me to block that off. Therefore, I must let him pass and compete fairly for the ball. Is it the correct decision on how the law is supposed to be interpreted at the moment? Yeah, it probably is. So from that perspective, is that a stonewall penalty for me that for the vast majority of history was given as a penalty? And when it was given in real time, I think everyone watching it thought it was a penalty. It's why the referee blew for a penalty immediately with no second thought. Yes. And like, I then wonder, a theme at times throughout this tournament has been the different ways in which laws are applied in and out of the penalty area. If this is the case, if this is now how we're saying, if you initiate contact, and we saw it a bit, right? When they didn't get the penalty against Senegal, that was the same idea, was that Mbappe had initiated contact with the Senegalese defender. If we're going to do this, no player can shield the ball now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to watch a defender letting a ball run out for a goal kick who is just not playing the ball and is not in possession of the ball and is making no attempt to play the ball, but is blocking someone from competing for the ball. That should be a foul every time. Or vice versa, an attacking player in the corner trying to waste time, he's fouling him then. Because what we're saying is he's initiating contact because he's preventing the player from making a legitimate attempt to play the ball. So if we're going to go that far, you better go the whole way. You can't just randomly decide. Like, all my life, you would have said that was really smart attacking play from Spence. He gets in front of the defender, he puts himself in a great position, and then he puts himself in a position to take contact from, and I think our listeners, if you're an American or an NFL fan, you'll know similar circumstances where a wide receiver kind of does that same thing of, I'm going to put myself here, and if the cornerback is going to compete with me, this is going to be pass interference. And like, maybe I can't even catch the ball, but I've done a smart thing here. I've won the right to this position, and now the underthrown ball, if he comes
Yeah.
back through
The
me to try
underthrown
and get
ball.
it,
Perfect.
like,
Perfect example.
it's gonna be pass interference. And all you can kind of do to that is that was smart play. You've like nothing we could do about it. And this is that bit bothers me. I think it's the most egregious decision in terms of how we actually think the laws of the game should be applied.
Yeah, I don't get how it's not a penalty. Like, obviously, I have less experience here, but he still has the ball. So, like, he can put himself in any position he wants because he has possession. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me that it was, like, debated, but then also, again, VAR coming in with quote unquote, like, I forget now I've heard the terminology so much I've now blocked it in my head, but like clear and
Clear and
obvious error
obvious.
type of thing. You know, like
Yeah.
that's clear and obvious. That's clear and obvious that that is not a penalty. Like that's crazy. If anything, that's like gray. That's as gray as you can get. Like if you want to really call it a gray area call, like that is not clear that it is not a penalty. It's if anything, it's like gray in the sense that some people would interpret that as him trying to initiate the contact and not playing versus he has the right because he has possession. Like clear and obvious, that's insane.
Yeah. And again, I said, like in the coming out of the Mexico game, I said yes. Do I think that the Harry Kane penalty, like when he gave away a penalty, do I think that really should be a penalty? No, but it's the correct decision based on how the laws are interpreted. And moving forward, I would want to see England. If the same thing happened, I would expect England to be given the penalty. I'll say this now: if in the semifinal, if Messi, you'll be a brave man, like whoever the referee is. If that's a copy, if you can carbon copy of that incident, but that's Messi getting in front of an England defender in the semifinal to be saying no penalty, I would love to see it. I'd be amazed if we saw it. But I think it should be a penalty. If that's for England or against England, I would expect that to be given as a penalty. So, and On that note, Alfinga Holland, Erling Haaland's dad, who, yes, there's always been the Alfinga Haaland versus Roy Keane sort of rivalry because of their history as players. He's made himself look like such an asshole throughout this tournament in a moment when his son has made himself look better and better in terms of how he
Yeah.
reacts to the press and how nice he looks. And then you just have this dad sitting in the sort of royal box with the Norwegian royalty, swigging champagne, and then like he's unfortunate. It cut to him right after the penalty. He does the dive gesture.
Yep.
You can say what you want about whether you think it's a penalty or not. It's definitely not a dive. So if you
No.
want to say like, oh, he initiated contact, it shouldn't be a penalty, fine. If you're doing the
What's the
dive
gesture
gesture,
for stepping in front? Is there a gesture
yeah.
for that?
Then he kind of gives two fingers in the direction of who I suppose are some England fans, and the camera very
Yeah.
quickly cut away.
Terrible
Then
look
he's
there.
he's like busy tweeting stuff. Uh yeah, it's not a great look. It's like you're still trying to make yourself a little bit of the star of the show. Alfie Holland had an okay career, wasn't anything special. We wouldn't be still talking about him unless his son was infinitely better than he ever was as a player. And I don't know if in the whole like humble vibes from Erling Holland, my dad would be annoying me if I were Erling Holland. And part of me would kind of also say, and Roy Keane obviously pulls no punches when he then speaks about Alfinga Holland. He's, like two of his comments, one of his comments was, well, he's drinking during the matches. So of course his analysis of what happens is not going to be that accurate, which is probably fair. Like maybe stay off Twitter if you've been knocking back champagne for several hours whilst watching your son play a sport. You might not be as objective as you would hope to be. And the second thing is also, why do you, and Roy Keane also made this statement, and this one I agree with. Why don't you go sit with the other parents? Like, why are you off in this royal
Yeah.
experience sitting next to the Prince of Norway or whatever and doing that? Why don't you go sit with the other parents who also are having this incredibly proud moment of their sons playing in a World Cup? Why don't you go do that? Again, we gotta buy into this whole like row nonsense, which grew thin on me. Uh, the breaking point for the rowing videos was for me, I saw a video of Norwegian fans trying to get it started on the streets of Miami. They're like just sitting down in a street trying to do it. And some England fans won't shut up while they're trying to start it. So the England fans keep chanting. And the Norwegian fans get annoyed that they aren't being given the silence that I guess they think they need in order to start the timing of the row. You can do your little chant, but you can't expect that the level of respect for it will extend to complete silence from everyone around you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really like this Norwegian team. I really like Holland. If they'd been playing against anyone other than England, I would have wanted them to win. Had they won, I would have wanted them to win the World Cup. But Alf-Inge Holland maybe did his best to make me dislike them slightly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess there's nothing you could do there. I was gonna say he's not really even on the Norwegian team, so just makes you dislike him.
Yeah, and he's like saying congratulations to the referee, like
And England, yeah.
attributing at that. And they're also walking this fine line because both he and Erling Haaland then say, well, now we want England to win because we have soft spots. Haaland said, I had an England jersey before I had a Norwegian jersey. And, like I was born in England and I live in England. So of all the remaining teams, I want England to win. You're not helped by your dad then being a complete prick on Twitter, like whilst trying to say that.
I have to say too, I respect Roy Keane more because I watched the clips of when they were discussing it on their show, and he almost is like dismissive of like it's like it doesn't
Oh, he won't
even
say his
bother him.
name. He's
Yeah,
like
like
he'll be like,
it
"Holland? Oh, his dad? His
yeah,
dad?"
his
Like, he won't
dad.
acknowledge he, like, won't
I love it.
acknowledge
Like
him.
he doesn't even acknowledge it or like acknowledge him. It's just like he's so above him. Like I kind of like love and respect that where it's like he just like because he easily could have been like, oh yeah, of course he said that because he's a huge fucking asshole. But he's just like, oh, he was probably drinking, like shouldn't say things when you drink. Like he won't even stoop to the level to insult
Yeah.
him because he thinks
Well,
he's just so
he
much
is
above him.
insulting him, though. And then look,
I know, but still.
for listeners, there's a huge amount of context, and I get like, in the end, where the Roy Keane did the worst thing in the, quick history. I know we've discussed it previously on the podcast, but Alf-Inge Holland tackled Roy Keane in a match where Roy Keane damaged, I think, both his ACL and his MCL, and then was out for 12 months, 18 months. And Roy Keane was writhing on the ground in pain, and Alf-Inge Holland stood above him and sort of told him to get up and said various other things to a player who certainly never, throughout his entire career, never faked injuries or made the most of injuries. So it's a pretty aggressive thing to do to someone who you know probably isn't pretending to be hurt. And then when Roy Keane came back the next time they played, he subsequently said he got sent off for a horrific tackle, sort of just where his studs went straight into Alf-Inge Holland's knees. And in his autobiography, he said that he was out there to end his career. Now, we've rewritten history that he did end his career. Alf-Inge Holland played for
He
a couple
didn't,
seasons
yeah.
more. But, you know, that's why the two of them hate each other. And that's why I guess ultimately, like, Roy Keane looks like slightly the worst guy. Although I was discussing it in the pub at the weekend. I was like, I don't know. If I was someone who never made I never made a meal out of injuries, and I was writhing on the ground in agony, and then some guy stands above me and tells me to get up and says who knows what else, and then I spend 18 months recovering and losing part of my career to, like, a part of me might go, next time I see him, I'm fucking killing him. Like that.
Oh, yeah.
I like,
For sure.
maybe I wouldn't have gone through with it, but I would definitely have had the thought, and I think everyone listening would too. And then moving on to the Argentina game, where they took the early lead. That sort of felt like, as has been the case with other Argentina matches during the knockout stage, that it would then just be a matter of how much, not if. And then Switzerland found an equalizer and might have pushed Argentina even closer if they hadn't had a player sent off in really unfortunate circumstances. I mean, not unfortunate, but where initially an Argentinian player was booked and then they review it and then they give the Switzerland player a second yellow card for simulation and he gets sent off. And I think it took like 98 minutes to get him off the pitch while he was crying. It was quite intense.
I think it's kind of annoying with the whole reaction and the crying and like the bewilderment he has when he clearly knows he did it. Like, you wanna do the fine line of simulating fouls on a yellow, then this is the risk you run. Don't then pretend that, like, because it was 100% the right call. If anything, he hits the player and go
Yeah.
like, that is simulation 100%. You knew what you were doing. You were trying to get a call, 100% knew what you're doing, and you got caught. Don't then suddenly act like, like you had just gotten shot by a bystander, like you did that. So get the fuck off, stop crying and complaining, and let this be a lesson. And I think this is a great lesson to stop fucking simulating.
It is. Although, again, and this is kind of inconsistencies of how things work, I do find it interesting that you can get your second bookable offense for simulation, but then you couldn't, if he just fouled the player, then that wouldn't have been a booking. And I do get it because ultimately we want to crack down on diving and simulation, but at the same time, I don't know, there's just so many inconsistencies all over the place that you kind of get lost within them. But yeah, he did, given the fact that he will have known what he did. And I'm sure as soon as it went to VAR, would have known, like, I'm in big trouble here. He was a bit dramatic. It's not in the Balogun situation of, oh my God, I didn't really know what I was doing, and now I've ruined my team's World Cup chances. You know, if that had been what had happened. But yeah, no, I didn't have as much sympathy. And then ultimately, still though, it's maybe an example of Argentina getting, full rub of the
Lucky.
green in some officiating decisions. And I think Switzerland have a really good shout for a penalty in like the 100 with 5 minutes to go in extra time. A cross goes into the box. And two Argentinian players are making no attempt to win the ball. They're just dragging a Swiss player down who's competing for it. And I don't know, it looks like a penalty to me, but it was 2-1 at the time, no penalty given. And then Argentina scored the late third to kind of seal it. But
And it's a shame too, because in the build-up to Switzerland's tying goal, they were just dominating possession, dominating chances, and then scored. And you thought, oh man, if they can keep this going, like just how they're playing right now, they can get a second goal. And then, within what, 3-4 minutes, it was the red card. Like, it was super quick after, and that just completely changed the momentum. Like, the momentum, even though it doesn't exist and it's not a real thing, was definitely with Switzerland after that goal.
Yeah, even though it doesn't exist and it's not a real thing, but they now display it on the TV throughout the game.
They need to change that. It's not the right word.
No. So, but yeah, I do agree. It was a shame. It would have been interesting to see how it played out had they had 11 men on the pitch for the remainder of it. But and yeah, another unconvincing win for Argentina. And as we transition to kind of looking ahead, I guess, to the two semifinals, I've been confident for England going into each round, knockout round. I might be more confident of England beating Argentina than I was that England would beat Mexico City or Norway. Because this Argentinian team, there's a lot of holes in England. This Argentinian team, I think, is pretty average from front to back. They're kind of old, especially obviously with Messi. And I think as you watch this tournament drag on, they look more and more tired and less impressive each match that comes. And so if England play with a bit of intensity and speed, I think it will cause real problems for Argentina. Now, the interesting thing to see will be obviously what's the injury situation with some of England's players. Like, will Declan Rice be able to play? Can Saka start a game? Because Madueke is awful. I mean, there's no two ways around it. Madueke,
Ugh.
it's confusing how he got into the England team to begin with, and he's done nothing. It's rare to go to a World Cup and start several games and make it all the way to the semifinal now, and I think he's hurt his stock. I think his transfer valuation has dropped in this tournament, even though
Yeah.
he's started on multiple occasions for a team that's now in the semifinal.
Yeah. I don't get it.
And so I know Saka's got his recovering from his Achilles injury. At what point, if you're Saka, do you kind of say, all right, I'm willing to re-injure myself. Like, I'm willing to risk something more severe happening, but I'm not willing to sit on the bench watching my teammate get the ball, give it away, miscontrol it, turn around, pass it backwards. Like, and that's and when you're Tuchel, how you know when are you willing to let that go or experiment with like put Rashford on the right, do something different.
He clearly doesn't like Rashford. I don't know if Rashford sees the pitch again. I don't understand it. I don't know why, but he is like refusing to
Well,
play him.
Well, I mean, Gordon did, like Gordon did well, and what Gordon, I think, I get what I understand in both the Mexico game and against Norway is that Gordon defensively does a lot of work, and he wanted that. But Madueke doesn't do much defensively, and he definitely doesn't do anything going forward.
Oof.
So, like,
Yeah, I don't know.
it's. And then obviously the return of Reece James in that Norwegian match, that could be a great thing for England in terms of how much solid that could make him at right back. That will be interesting. Is he capable of playing a full 90 minutes now? Can he start the Argentina match? Obviously, the conditions will not be as testing as they were in either of their two previous matches, so that will be a welcome change for England. But, you don't want to get knocked out of the tournament with a bunch of what ifs being, what if I had started a player who was 60%, 70% fit, who maybe tells me he can get through? I would rather start with Saka and then have Madueke come on and hope that you can get a 2-goal lead and then bring Madueke on to kind of game manage. And plus,
Just waste time.
but I'll also give him this. Madueke is rapid. So he's much more suited to England winning, and you bring him on, and then on the counter, he is a huge threat. Versus Saka will help you create more, score more. Because ultimately at this moment, the England team are Bellingham and Kane and basically
Yeah.
no one else. Like, it's not great.
Yeah. And actually, we didn't really even mention Bellingham. Another pretty epic performance in a big stage match.
I thought
2 goals.
I thought he was fine. I will say, I don't think anyone in England for England played particularly well. Pickford, very questionable, and I know I said after the Mexico performance, let's stop. As a whole, let's give Pickford a pass. He did his best to undo that slightly. I think he's leaving that cross. I think he thinks it's going over or going wide, and he kind of pulls his hand away. So it's not a great look. And overall, he didn't seem as composed in this match versus where he looked so solid against Mexico. Bellingham was fine. The first goal, he makes a really nice run. Yeah, I don't think that's the kind of thing you hope to see out of him, the sort of penetrating runs from midfield, that there aren't actually a lot of players who do that. The second goal, yeah, you give him credit. He's the only player who reacts and gambles on the possibility that the keeper will spill it, but you just would hope that a player standing around the penalty area is going to do that when someone shoots from distance. I mean, it's one of the first things you get taught playing football. Like, I'm sure in ice hockey it's the same about closing in on the net after someone's taken a shot. I don't know how many
It
rounds of applause I'm going to give him for just doing a basic thing well.
it is, but he scores. Like,
He does score. And no, I'm not trying, but my point is like, he's the hero for sure. He's the best of a bad lot, basically, for England. And he's only the best of a bad lot, not because of what he did over the course of 120 minutes, but because he just happened to score 2 goals. And that's the good thing about being a great player is you don't have to do a lot to be the star of the show, because I think if Anderson had scored the 2 goals that Bellingham scores, I'm not sure how much we're raving about Anderson's performance. I think it would have just been one nice goal and a tap in. But because
but
it's
Anderson
Bellingham,
didn't score.
no, no, I'm not denying it, and Bellingham in this tournament, is putting himself into an elite company of where does he stand in the all-time greats for England. Same with
Yeah.
Kane. The two of them, and Pickford to a certain extent in terms of like goalkeeping. So where is Pickford in the all-time best England goalkeeper? I think it's hard now to almost not put him top of the pile because of longevity and sort of consistent tournament performances. And the same goes for Bellingham, who came out on the back of, Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard and this kind of golden generation of England midfielders, Paul Scholes, even Owen Hargreaves, who's probably underappreciated. Bellingham, I think, could probably argue that he's now the best England midfielder of the 2000s, of this century. I think it's hard to kind of counter that given all that he's achieved and what we would expect he will continue to do, at least some of, for the next 10 years. And he's probably a good example, when he's not been good for Real Madrid this season, of a player who probably plays better for England than he plays for his club side at times.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, good performances. I mean, to get through. And looking ahead to the semifinals, some interesting stats heading into the semis. So, Kylian Mbappe has now reached the World Cup semifinals in every World Cup he's played in. So
Nice.
2018, obviously won it. 2022, lost in the final, and now he's in the semifinal again. That is speaking of elite company, that puts him in not a lot of players in that category. So other players who've achieved that, Germany had a number of players, 1982 to 1990, including Lothar Matthäus, Litbarski, and a couple of others who played. Not all of them. The thing that gets tricky here is assuming Mbappe plays in the semifinal. A lot of players have been in the squad for 3 consecutive semifinals, but not actually made an appearance. For example, Ousmane Dembele, that's going to be the case.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Is he the only French player that's been in those 3 in a row?
So Dembele was also in all 3 squads, but didn't play in 2018.
Mm.
He may have come on in the semifinal. He didn't, though, come on in the final. And that's where Mbappe could really put himself. There is only
3
one
finals.
other player in history who has played in 3 consecutive World Cup finals, which is Cafu.
That's crazy.
There are players, again, who have been sort of part of 3 consecutive finals, but have not made it onto the pitch in all 3 of them. So for Brazil, that includes R9, Fat Ronaldo. He didn't play in 94. And yeah, Dembele would also have that same. He didn't play in the 2018 final, but he was part of the squad. So he would be another opportunity for him.
And you're on Spain for this one.
I am. I'm going to back them to control the game, frustrate France with possession. And I think 2-1 Spain. I think they'll get a 2-0 lead. France will get back into the game as they throw everything forward, and then Spain will just be able to see it out. And I think whoever wins this wins the World Cup. This is the
Okay.
final.
Two good matches, though, still.
Two good I mean, a lot of history.
Yeah.
France, Spain, friendly rivalry in footballing terms, but definitely a big rivalry. And then England, Argentina, a pretty fierce rivalry. I mean, and the Argentinians do nothing to kind of dampen that. They bring up the Falklands so much. And it's interesting, because like being an England fan, we have lots of rivals in different sports. Like Scotland is the sort of old rivalry, but realistically, it's not much of a rivalry because we're usually beating Scotland, certainly in football. So like it's not that it's a big brother, little brother rivalry, but where I think as a big brother, you don't take the little brother too seriously. Germany is a big rivalry for us, but then the Germans don't really see England as a rival, like because historically we've not been that competitive in World Cups. And also, whilst we really focus in on the two World War stuff, particularly the Second World War, obviously for Germans, they kind of separated themselves. But in a way, this is an important note. Germany separates itself from World War II in admitting that it was a very bad part in their history and that they were definitely the bad guys, but it doesn't feel like a reflection of where modern day Germany is. France is a big rivalry, but again, like I think in footballing terms, I think the French might almost see England as more of a rival than England sees France sometimes. And then there's Argentina, where obviously the Falkland Wars really kicked things off. This will be the fifth time we'll be playing them in the World Cup knockout stage in the World Cup. Every match we've played against them previously has been contentious. There was the hand of God. There was the Beckham sending off in 1998, the Beckham redemption penalty in 2002.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of history there. But it's interesting to me because, like, we're not a history podcast. As a British person, I accept that, like, the legacy of the British Empire is not always a positive one, and that we're the bad guys in a lot of stories sometimes, and that when like African nations see us as a rival and kind of want to get one over their former rulers, I can get it. I can get why it means a lot to them. And sometimes people throw the Falklands in as an example of that, as if like this is the sort of last bastion of the British Empire, which in some respects it is. But like there was no native population of the Falklands. It was first colonized by France and then later by the English. Like Argentina have no reason to claim it other than it's closer to Argentina than it is to the UK. The people there speak English. In every referendum, they vote like over 99% of them to remain British. And then they just invaded it, took it over, and then lost a war. They were the bad guys in that war. Like, there's no denying it. But they only launched that war because their economy was fucked, and they're always in political turmoil, and it was a great way to distract their population from everything else that was going on in their country. So, not to go off on a completely different tangent, but it's really interesting to me that, like, they've embraced this as, like, the Falklands is still a big issue for them, and that the English are being awful by still having the Falklands. It's very weird to me. And it's strange that sometimes neutrals, because I guess they don't really look into the Falklands in enough detail and do just think, oh, it's the British Empire hanging around for longer than it should have done, think that Argentina might be in the right. I want to tell all our listeners they definitely aren't. Go and look at it in more detail. And if you doubt me, those same players also think some pretty awful racist chants at different moments in time and some other pretty bad things. So maybe they're not the ones to trust when it comes to accuracy.
Is there a good Falklands movie?
No.
No, I don't think so, right? I've never seen one.
It's kind of, I think for everyone other than Britain and Argentina, it's a forgotten war, right? Like it's not a big deal. And in some respects, as far as wars go, it's not a big deal. I think something like 250 British service members died in that war, something like that. I could be completely off base. That's what my limited historical knowledge of the Falklands seems to remember. But like, and you can kind of summarize it. Sometimes even the British will kind of laugh at it as there's like, yeah, we won the Falklands War because like our destroyers could fire X number of miles and Argentina's could only fire like X minus 10. So it was sort of but people died and fought, and yeah, but they were the bad guys, and they're still the bad guys. They're getting all the benefits from FIFA. They're pretty racist at various moments in time. Again, I'm all for being critical of England and the British Empire at different moments, but this isn't the one. This is not the hill you want to die on if you want to have your anti-British moment. There's much better places to make your stand.
Maybe an England-France final.
Yeah, sure. Look, England, France, Mbappe continues, I'm often critical. And look, I'm disappointed in Harry Kane for his comments on playing golf with Trump and the way he handled that situation. Conversely, like Mbappe in the dealing with the Paraguayan racism and just all the topics he speaks about, I think Mbappe has a really big selfish streak that impacts his footballing at times. As a person, he seems like a really great guy. And when he speaks out, and the willingness of this French team to speak out on political issues, I think should be commended. I like that. I like people using their platforms to try and appeal to the larger populations who might otherwise ignore big issues. It's what I liked about the Southgate era of England. And there's a stark contrast in the Tuchel era of England in that same so, yeah, if you want to say as a neutral, France are probably the good guys left in the World Cup against two sides that are occasionally plagued by racism and England, then yeah, I'm fine with that. I can get it.
So your final then is Spain-England.
Spain-England, and I think, as I said, I think whoever wins out of France and Spain will win the World Cup.
I'm going France-England and France.
Yeah. I mean, those are technically the two favorites, but yeah, I think it's hard to make a case for either England or Argentina based on what we've seen so far. We need to see a dramatic transformation in form from either one of them in this semifinal to feel like they can then take momentum forward into the final. Now, it's not to say that they can't win because they still have experienced and good players. In a one-off game, anything is possible. France or Spain could have a player sent off in the 5th minute. You never know what happens. But this doesn't feel too dissimilar to the 2018 World Cup when England were playing Croatia in the semifinal and France were playing Belgium in the semifinal. And it just felt like whoever wins out of France and Belgium is going to win the World Cup. And the other two teams will just be happy to take part and might give a good show, but probably won't.
And France-Spain is Tuesday, and then England-Argentina Wednesday, and then the final is Sunday.
And the third place game is Saturday, in case I really... So England, all 4 teams are guaranteed 2 more matches at this stage. And obviously we're saying, so the first semifinal, the France-Spain match, that is being played at Cowboy Stadium. And the England-Argentina match is being played in Atlanta. So 2 indoor conditions.
And then the finals outdoor.
Yes. But at least, it might be really hot and awful. But
it might
at
be.
least not. And this I will say, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours who is French speaking about the World Cup run, and I was like, I'm not complaining, but I do think England have had a much tougher draw in terms of locations they've played versus France, who've just got to play in Boston, New York, and I think they played a game previously in Dallas too. So realistically, not a huge amount of travel. They've been able to stay out of their base and never really travel much. And on top of it, the conditions they played in have been reasonably friendly. I know that even when they played in Boston, it's been hot, and same in New York and stuff, but still very different to playing in Miami or Mexico City. And I was like, it is what it is. That's luck of the draw, but it isn't really luck of the draw because FIFA did kind of plan that out. But, it's worth mentioning. He got very upset and said the excuses were already coming out, to which I told him, don't even think for a second that if the shoe was on the other foot, that the French wouldn't be mentioning it absolutely every hour of every day.
All right. Anything else World Cup related?
Check my little fact sheet. Think that obviously we're set up for a good Golden Boot showdown too. Messi and Mbappe both on 8 goals. Kane not a million miles behind. Dembele and Bellingham. And Dembele could also conceivably get himself in the mix if he had a really good semifinal and final. So
Yeah.
that could be interesting to see. Nope, but I think that's it. World Cup wise.
Any other topics?
Jannick Sinner won the Wimbledon.
That's true. He did.
Came back from a set down against Zverev.
Beat your son.
Yeah. Yeah, Zverev, who he needs a new speechwriter for his post-match comments.
Hey, this is your son. This is your. You got this. This is
He
your
pulled he pulled the he started by saying, "First of all, Jannick, I don't really like you anymore. I've lost to you 9 times in a row." I think he's actually lost to Sinner 10 times in a row, so he was factually incorrect. But he also pulled the joke, which had been pulled much better in the women's final the day before because they were both Czech and they're actually like really good friends. And so she started off by saying, "We're not friends anymore." I think if you're Zverev, who's also he pulled the same joke against Fritz in the final at Halle like a month. I think you got to know
friends with anybody.
I think you just got to know like you can't go that well multiple times, and you definitely he must have been aware of the fact that it had been used in the final the day before. You can't just it's like seeing some guy do, like stand up and do their best man speech and they're just using all the same cliched jokes. You got to come up with something a little bit original. Other than that, sports wise, not too much. Wimbledon wise, I do have to say, once again, Stanley Tucci making an appearance.
Oh boy.
2 things.
He was
As a
also at
world-
Royal Ascot, you know.
He was. He was not able to. He was in the royal procession at Royal Ascot. I mean,
Yep.
what on earth has Stanley Tucci done in his life to justify? Like, I've never seen people like in modern parlance, we love to talk about like glow ups and stuff. This is a guy who is a decidedly like middling character actor for the vast majority of our lives. Of like, oh yeah, Stanley Tucci's usually good in things, but he's never a headliner in a movie. Like he's fine. He's fine. You're not like, we got to go and see this movie. Stanley Tucci is in it. Those words would have not, even his mother never said those words. And yet, now here we are, because he's now embraced the stupid Italian American culture. Now I'm going to make fresh food, and if all you have to do is pour olive oil on something and it tastes like heaven. And now we got to invite him to everything. And he's part of the royal procession. He's part of the royal box. And he's also, and I say this as myself being a little bit of a curmudgeon at times, he almost also is evolving his character into being more and more of this sort of hard to please asshole as part of what he does. And like mostly he's just complaining about things or just trying to use too many big words to describe it. So, like, oh, what's it like coming to Wimbledon? Instead of just saying, it's amazing, it's wonderful to be here, like the atmosphere is great, and like I love seeing world-class tennis players play, and it's just really special to be here. He has to go into this sort of, you can smell the red and taste the this, like he's just kind of going like overboard for everything. It's just awful. Just get him off our screens as quickly as possible, please. And at a certain moment, just know that you're overexposed. You're overexposed right now. Just take a step back. We don't need you in everything. We don't need you everywhere. At this rate, I'm going to tune in. At this rate, I'm going to tune in for the last stage of the Tour de France, and he's going to be like on a like ceremonial bike riding down the Champs-Elysees.
I hate to break it to you, but he's got the new show. Instead of doing the touring Italy, he's touring England.
I know. I hope someone poisons him. Like, I don't mind the damage it could do to the already struggling reputation of British food if someone feeds him like a steak and ale pie that's laced with arsenic. I think I'd be fine. I'd be fine with it. Just somebody take him out, and I'll put my foot down. Even though he'd be a huge get for us, I would never have him on the fucking podcast. He's on the list.
I have to cancel him now.
Yeah.
It took me years to get him, and now I got to call him tomorrow and tell him it's over.
He's on a list that no matter what a huge get that would be. And then I could tell everybody we know, Stanley Tucci's on the podcast tomorrow. I would rather sit in silence and stare at a wall than have to talk to Stanley Tucci for a bit.
This is going to be an awkward combo I have to have with him tomorrow.
You can interview him by yourself, and then I'll just post-interview, just analyze the conversation and shit on him constantly.
Anything else?
I don't. Oh, fire shots at another actor.
Oh boy.
So obviously, The Odyssey, dominating all discussions, and I'm
Who's
looking
it going to
forward to it.
be? Oh wait.
You,
Oh wait. Is it male or female?
male.
Oh, I was going to go Zendaya. I'm going to go Tom Holland.
It is Tom Holland. So I don't know if you saw the interview he
This-
did, where they asked him why he said use dad. And then he gives this, because supposedly in the Odyssey, he says dad at some point, and he gets sort of questioned on this word choice because it's unusual to, do a sort of historical epic and to use a modern term like that. And he gives this snarky response of, well, I wouldn't have been saying father in the time anyway, because it would have been in ancient Greek. It's like, okay, what an asshole response to that question that is, because you're correct, but you're also not going to be like the actual word they would have been saying, and I've looked into it, so it would have been it is father. I wouldn't want to come out and say this. I got so annoyed listening to him say this that I had to make sure that if I was gonna stick my head above the parapet, that I was gonna at least be right on this. So they would have had a sort of like pater, father. By that logic, this movie should just be filled with modern terms. Like, is he at some moment, is this gonna be Odysseus? Like, they're rowing away and be like, "Man, this is really killing my vibe." Oh, like,
Maybe.
there's one moment, does he like 6'7" his way through by the Cyclops or something? Like, where do we draw the line? And that's fine if you want to do a full modern interpretation. People make movies and plays like that where they do completely update the language. That's fine. No one can criticize you for it. But if when someone says, "Hey, it's strange that you use dad and not father in that moment," that seems historically sort of odd. And Christopher Nolan's made a big deal out of how he's trying to, like, the armor they've worn has been in the movie is
Yeah.
being made in exactly the same ways as they would have used at the time. Well, why do that? So then I can watch fucking Spider-Man call a guy dad midway through the movie.
Well, it's kind of like Chernobyl, right? Like they obviously had the actors speak English in Chernobyl, but they still kept it historically kind of
Yes.
accurate. Like they weren't using, like, oh shit, Chernobyl's the
Bro,
bomb, like,
the
yeah.
fucking power station just went up. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that nuclear reactor looks fucked. Like, no,
Yeah.
and we see this all the time. Like, every time I watch Pride and Prejudice, they still they might make some changes, but they still speak like they spoke for the most
Yeah.
part. It's like, yeah, you go and watch Shakespeare. They either choose to do a really modern interpretation of it, or you still see something that kind of resembles mostly how the plays were written and how they spoke. Maybe they don't do the full Shakespearean language, but they don't also completely bastardize it either. So, and I don't mind someone, but it was such a snarky asshole response that, and I kind of mostly I'm okay with Tom Holland. He does fall into the tribe of, oh, I struggled so much with alcohol for the 9 months of my life that I actually drank, and so now I have to sell my soul to sell non-alcoholic beverages to people, but that's okay, whatever. You do you, because like you have to have unlimited number of brands because you're just a famous actor. But that's fine. But just like, for the most part, he seems like a really nice person. And that does actually usually come across in interviews, that he's sort of paying attention, being polite, doing all that stuff. This was just like, if I was the interviewer, I just would have torn into him. And if Tom Holland ever comes onto the podcast, that's the only topic we're discussing. Stanley Tucci isn't allowed on. Tom Holland
Man,
is
a lot of specifics here.
yeah, Tom Holland is allowed on, but we're only going to discuss his usage of the word dad in the Odyssey.
This is going to be the toughest day of return phone calls I've had in a long time.
But yeah.
What a show I had lined up for us. We were gonna talk Devil Wears Prada and Spider-Man for weeks, and now we've got nothing.
So
Any
yeah,
other
there's
rants you wanna go on?
um
Is this still just all coming off of the having to watch the England match in your hotel room by
yeah,
yourself?
yeah. Oh, I gotta get another one. I'll fire some shots. I got some notes. I gotta fire some shots. Um Taylor Lewan, who, he's been one of the people who came out kind of from Bussin' with the Boys, former left tackle for the Tennessee Titans. He was not invited to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift's wedding and has come out saying that he was really disappointed to be snubbed, but then it came out and backtracked and said he can, can invite whoever the fuck you want to your wedding. What a pathetic, I can understand being possibly a little miffed to not be invited to someone's wedding. You know, there's people who when he gets married, I'll definitely get invited, or when she does, or that person probably I wouldn't get the invitation. But you don't try and you've justified not being invited if you then publicly go out and discuss the fact that you're upset that you weren't invited. That tells me, if I were Travis Kelce, that tells me everything that I need to know about you, and that all you wanted to do was use this moment to get a little bit more attention and promote your podcast a little bit more and sell a few more ads, and that I'm good without, I got enough other friends. That's okay.
Yeah. Which, I mean, brings me to the larger point is I'm surprised you didn't wanna have a whole topic on the Taylor Swift wedding.
Kind of a loser move to have it at Madison Square Garden. I will say that. Like,
Well, I mean, I
there's
think it's pretty clear why they did, because they wanted it to be completely private so they could film it and then sell it.
yeah. I mean, yeah, because Taylor Swift can't go a day without making money out of absolutely everything that she can. But you can have a private wedding without having it at Madison Square Garden. And I could actually argue that you're drawing so much unnecessary attention by having it at Madison Square Garden. I haven't seen anything, not to say that Dua Lipa is on the same level as Taylor Swift, but in Sicily or wherever she had her big wedding. Yes, there was press discussing it, and there was some backlash from locals and all sorts of things. But fundamentally, I haven't seen videos leak out or pictures be there or anything like that. You can definitely have your wedding in a normal wedding location without everyone knowing who's there, what happened. It doesn't have to be in a dome somewhere to protect yourselves. You're taking yourselves a little bit too seriously. Nor do I think you have to have a wedding that's so big that many people are being invited. That also kind of question that as
Crazy.
well. Like,
Crazy amount of people.
and the fact that she performed.
The fact that Adam Sandler was the officiant.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, I judge celebrities who become so much of celebrities that they can't escape any element of celebrity culture. So that you're just and it's also because it's such a strong juxtaposition from his brother, whose entire brand is, I'm a normal person, just really, really rich and famous,
Yeah.
which he's not. He's not a normal person. We just have to try and pretend that he is. But just have some normal things. Just and don't take yourselves the whole your English teacher is marrying your PE teacher stuff. Oh God, it makes me want to throw up. Just if Travis Kelce was your PE teacher, you're in trouble. And if Taylor Swift, based on the fact that Taylor Swift rhymes the same 7 words with each other and relentlessly over and over again, if she was your English teacher, I don't think you're going very far with your literary career either.
Oh, man. Shots fired at everyone today. This must have been some second half in the hotel room.
Let's see. Who else have I got? Let's see if I got any more notes. I'm sure there's probably
I
someone
think we
else I
need to
can.
cut it before it gets too controversial.
Oh, one last thing. Travel update. Travel stories.
Okay.
People, and we've already discussed this. On
Oh,
the way,
boy.
so for me on the Eurostar, on the way there, guy opens up his laptop, puts his headset on, joins a meeting. He sat in his seat on the Eurostar. And it was, I gave him the benefit of the doubt for a moment of maybe this isn't a meeting that he's really going to talk in. So before I say something, let me just see. Maybe he's just putting the headset on in case someone goes like, Frank, what do you think? And he just needs to make sure he can actually say something, but that he's basically just a spectator. Wasn't a spectator. Started speaking a lot. And so then I tapped him on the shoulder and was like, you can't do a meeting here. You just can't. You can't join a call here. And he was like, "Oh, I have nowhere else to go. What do you want me to do?" So again, I said, it's not my problem. Like this is, it's not a WeWork on a train. Like it's not, we don't all have to tolerate this. Like this is what people think is acceptable because the technology allows it to happen, that it therefore is acceptable, is so annoying. Like I can't, for the life of me, can't imagine doing it. And even prior to that, because I went into the Eurostar lounge, I'm not a big lounge person, but I had like 2 hours. It was hot. There was air conditioning in the lounge, so I was happy to escape the heat. And plus in the Eurostar, as you know, there's like not a lot of places to sit. So it's like there's nothing else you can really do. I was in the lounge. And again, like I'm now of the belief that people are intentionally planning meetings for when they're in lounges, not, oh God, I'm in a lounge and I need to get something done. It's more like, I have 3 hours to kill, therefore I'll schedule every meeting. And it's like, they are treating it like a public workspace versus it's supposed to kind of be sort of relaxing and a nice respite throughout your otherwise hectic travel. But now I have to sit there and listen to you like just talk about your quarterly performance whilst you're 2 feet away from me. Like no, it's not.
Well, Delta Lounge has done a good job. They've put those little like work pods in most of their
Fine.
lounges now where you sit in a
But
pod.
but then to me, I also want the lounge to be really clear of if you have a call, it's the pod. Because, otherwise people are like, "I don't like the pod. It gets hot," like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
They'll do all that stuff. It's like, "No, no, no. You need to make an announcement of like, hey, we have created spaces for you to go and work so you don't disrupt other people." And look, if it's a really big airport lounge where they can at least do like, this is sort of the working area, and then if you're not working, you go there, that's fine to me too. But like, I don't know. It just bothers me so much. Also then got one of the most awkward, got to watch this. These 4 guys strolled in, all in like, they're obviously consultants. So white shirts, dark navy pants, kind of just coming in. And then probably ranging in age from like 30 to 55. The youngest guy was French. They were all speaking English. And then they were going to get drinks. So they all went and got beers and then sat down. And then the oldest one got up to go and get like some snacks and brought them back to them. And as he came back, he put them back down. And the French guy, who is also quite camp, but I won't assume his whatever sexuality he might have, went, "Thank you, Daddy." It didn't go down well with his colleagues. It was a lot of silence, and he could tell he immediately regretted it. And as me overhearing it, I regretted it for him. It was not a good moment. Like, that might be an HR meeting taking place to this
Oh,
morning.
that's great.
And then to round things off on the way back, yesterday, the girl fucking FaceTimes sitting in her chair. And when I went again, like, and with no headphones on, just fucking FaceTiming. And so again, I was like, "Can you go and do that in the sort of middle, like in between the trains?" And she was like, "Oh, I won't be long." What world is this now?
When I got to my seat, there was someone FaceTiming on my plane, but then I heard her say, "Oh, someone's sitting next to me now. I've got to go." And I almost wanted to turn and be like, "Thank you, I appreciate that." But I didn't say anything because I was slightly annoyed that she was
She
already
had
kind of on
headphones
the
on
call
though?
to begin with. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. She had headphones on. If you have headphones on, I'll give you a pass pre-takeoff, pre-thing leaving. That like maybe that's like, I have to get this last call in
I think
before
that's
I
what it
leave.
was. Yeah.
I'll give someone a pass if that's what you're doing with headphones in. But you have to be quick. Because even there, it's like, why does it matter that someone's sitting next to you? Someone was sitting in front of you and behind you previously and had to listen to you blabber on.
True.
Like, it's not
True.
as if you weren't on a private jet and like, oh, the one other passenger has now arrived.
Oh, actually it was.
Yeah. So like, that's the only thing. It's just, I don't know. I can't understand people. But yes, if you're quickly making a call, like before you take off or before your train leaves, I'm not going to be that much of a dick. But It's gotta be quick. It's gotta feel like, "Hey, I really need to give this update." Like, "Oh, my plane's about to leave, but we're running 10 minutes late." Like, I mean, okay, the internet answers all of these questions nowadays anyway. It is the Larry David, like, "If the plane crashes, we will know," sort of thing. But like, I can understand, "Hey, you're meeting me at the airport. The plane's taking off 20 minutes late, but I'll see you there. I'll meet you in front of gate J."
All right. Well, with that travel update, I think we call it a day.
Yeah, I think I've exhausted my notes.
All right. I'll talk to you later.